Excited to be here. Thank you for being here. I always makes me excited to see people show up for this kind of conversation because a lot of times numbers are not fun. But we're gonna make them fun today. At least I think we're gonna make them fun. And it just shows me your commitment to serving your clients. So thank you guys for being incredible. This is what's going to set us apart. How many of you, just out of curiosity, listened to the regional quarterly market update that happened earlier this week? A handful of you guys, good. Some of the stuff we'll talk about is some of the data from that. It's recorded, it's available to all of you. There's like 160 slides that you can go geek out on. Ultimately, though, I didn't want to go over 150 slides with you guys today, even though I had a lot of fun on my own going over the 150 slides. It's like I brought my popcorn to get excited. But I always think through as I'm consuming the data, is not just to consume the data to replicate it. What I'm really thinking through for you is how does this interact or collide with the client? So there's the economy, there's the market. Those are out of our control. We have to understand them. But let's think of those as two entities. And then there's two additional entities that are in play. One is you as the agent, and one is the client. And what you have to figure out, you put your little science experiment jacket on and a beaker, you got to figure out like what is the right combination of where your client's at, who you are and what you bring to the table, what is going on in the market, what is going on in the economy. And so what you can't think is that your license, because it says real estate license on it, you are the solution for everybody, because you are not. Unless you know how to put together the right combination of those things. And so what I did, instead of just going through like we normally do, as you guys know, normally when I'm talking about the statistics, I like to start like at a macro level and then kind of work our way down to like a micro conversation. Because I decided to group it instead of by macro to micro, I decided to group it into conversations. Actual questions that the consumer has right now, talking about the question your clients have right now, and then having supporting data to that question. So, Bradley, you let me click. Thank you. So here are what I believe are the top consumer questions for 2026. Just for fun for a second, what do you think is on this list? What do you think are the top? When I say consumer, that's your client, your buyers and sellers, people in your database. What are their top questions about 2026 right now? Interest rates. Okay, I love you brought that one. Let's see how close I get on all of mine. Rates is one of them. What else? Okay, prices. What's going to happen with prices? What else? Bubble. Okay, are we in a bubble? I like that. Are we headed toward a recession? Is the U.S. economy going to crumble? Okay, I like it. You guys are nailing them.
Best time to buy.
Okay, best time to buy. You guys are so smart. Either you're so smart or you're confirming that I'm smart. I like either way. Okay, what else? What else we got on there? Anything else? Okay, let's jump through these. You guys actually nailed a lot of the ones I came up with. I've got a couple bonus ones in there. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, Bradley. There we go. So let's start with one question. What I'm going to do is, what is the question? Why are the consumers asking it? And then I put together like, what is the underlying principle? And why I did it that way is this is what I want to teach you to do. I don't need to teach you how to be a better real estate agent. I don't need to teach you in this class how to write a contract. What I want to teach you is how to be a consultant to your clients. And what that is a lot of times in life, not just in business, but when someone's asking you a question, there's generally a deeper question they want to ask. They just don't know how to ask that question. Okay. How many of you have teenagers? Think about the questions your teenagers ask. They're really, most of the time, it's an underlying question, right? When my teenage daughter asks me, hey, what are we doing this weekend? What is she's not really asking, what are we doing this weekend? Like, Dad, we can hang out. She's trying to navigate the stuff she wants to get done inside of what I'm telling her we're going to do as a family, right? So it's similar to your clients. So a couple things. One is when they're asking a question, it's either they're trying to get somewhere, they don't know how to get there, or they don't know how to quite ask the question, or they're asking a surface level question because they don't know how to get to the deeper root question. Okay, so that's what I wanted. That's why I wanted to go through this process of what is the question, and we can think through a couple different ways they're going to ask it. Why are they asking it? That's what you need to be asking yourself. When your client asks you a question, your response is going to be this. Oh, I'm so smart. I know the answer to that. Let me just give them an answer. What you really need to be asking is, well, why are they asking that? And then it's understanding what is the underlying economic principle to that question, and how do I get them to there? So I can answer all the questions down to here instead of just the surface level question, and then being like, oh, thanks for answering it. Let's move on. Make sense? So let's look at the first one. Are interest rates going to stay high? And does that mean I'm priced out? So are interest rates going to stay high? And does that mean I'm priced out? Does that sound similar to a question you might get? Yep. Okay. And what conclusions can we draw about what they believe based on how this question is written? Okay, so you're going to the principle. I like that. It's an affordability. So that we're going to pull that into the actual underlying principle. But what do we know about what they believe by how this is asked? Okay, they believe rates are high. Okay, relative to what?
What they've been in the past.
Okay, so to us, we know a bigger story, but we got to say in them that their reality right now is rates are high. Okay, I'm taking that and saying, okay, here's a belief of them. Does that mean I'm priced out? What does that say? What does that say about their belief system?
They can't afford it.
Okay, so they've already looked at some prices somewhere, and they're like, man, with the interest rates and those prices, I'm priced out. Okay, so we can already draw some conclusions for what they're saying. So they're anchoring to something. Okay, in this scenario, probably 2021 rates and equating higher than 3% with unaffordable forever. So what we can pull from this is they're saying anything higher than 3% because I've lived that is too high. And these prices, since they're so high, I think it's unaffordable forever. Okay, so now I've pulled out, what do I have to create some data for? A lot of you guys have seen me draw this before, but normally what the principle I'm taking people through is when they say something or give me a question, I got to figure out what their current reality is. Okay, this is the mistake a lot of times we make is we currently try to get them to our reality. Okay, is this a safe path for people to go? You're wrong, I'm right, this is how you're supposed to think. It's very rare that someone will be happy with that. Okay, so what's a different path? This is the shortest path, and those high drivers in the room, this is the path we want to take, but this is the path we actually have to take. Okay, so a lot of you have seen this already, but I'm going to redraw it just for this conversation today. How do I go from here to here? Because first thing I got to get them to believe, get rid of that, is that I got to get them to believe that this, you think it's a reality, but it's actually your perspective. Okay? Is there a clear difference between what I believe to be a reality and what perspective is? Okay, so I first got to ask good questions to get them to say, like, okay, there might be a different way to think about this. Then I'm going to continue to provide data and ask questions to get them to a new perspective. If I can get them to it from their current perspective to a new perspective, then I can go for a close and agreement and a new reality. Okay, this is the process that I got to take people through when they're asking me a question. It's not just let me jump to answer the question. What's their current reality? How do I ask them questions to get into what for them to acknowledge this is a perspective? Now they're ready for me to give data sets and ask more questions. They're at a new perspective when they're like, oh yeah, okay, this makes sense. I didn't think about it that way. Oh man, I've never heard that. Those are the kind of cues you're looking for. And then you take it to a reality. Okay, how many of you have seen this before? Okay, is this a skill set that is already ingrained in who you are? Because if it's not, this to me is sales 101. And not sales like I'm selling you a used car, but how do I actually help people? How do I help? I can't help people in this market unless I can change their reality, what they believe is going on in the marketplace. Okay, so they're anchoring to something. The underlying principle, Mikhail, you hit this on nail on the head, is it really comes down to an affordability conversation. We got to help them understand affordability does not just equal interest rates alone. That's a part of it. What are the three elements of affordability? Interest rates, median income, median priced home, okay? So if I can get them off the interest rate and into affordability conversation, it changes. Payment is driven by rates plus prices plus income plus time. So let's look at a couple of things to support this. Mortgage rates are expected to hover in the low sixes. It's interesting to look at the different entities that are making predictions about what they think interest rates are going to do. You can see MBA forecast at 6.4, Wells Fargo at 6.2, Fannie Mae forecast 5.9. So it's interesting to see the different, and you think about the sources, like what type of loans each one of these are giving, are thinking about rates in perspective to them, okay? But it gives us a pretty good mix. Do we feel like this is pretty accurate where rates are going to go this year? Right now, based on what we know about the economy, do we think anything different? No, I think this is actually pretty right, okay? So here's what we can't do. If I don't like that data, I can't come into a group of 50 people and say, hey, if we team up, we can actually get rates down to 5% this year. We can't do it, okay? So what do I have to play? I've got to learn how to play the game around this, okay? It's not me griping and complaining about this. It's now me saying, how do I help clients through this? Because are people going to need to buy, sell, and invest in real estate in the coming year? Yes. Absolutely. So do they need someone to help them navigate through this?
Yes.
Okay. Are you the person to help them navigate through this? I'm glad you're saying yes. The question is how well can you do this with all the data we're going to go through today? U.S. median home payment. This is what is they're looking at when they're struggling with the idea of it. Look back 2021, rates were 3%. Median home payment was 1,000, 1,014, 1,170. In today's market, at 6.6%, mortgage payments on the same house, $2,110. Okay, so are people feeling a squeeze on their budgets? Okay, so someone back here, they're going from potentially a mortgage payment of $800, but they have to change locations to $2,100. Now, here's the question is, it's not just these dollars, it's all the dollars they earn. Okay, so remember when I said the little beaker that you got to figure out where they collide with the market? They have a personal economy going on where regardless of what their income is, let's say back here at let's say 1,000 because that's the easiest. Let's say 1,000. If we were to graph their income on top of that, maybe that's 4,000 a month, 3,000 a month, but this becomes a percentage of it. If they make a move, it eats up a big percentage of it. They can't go into their boss tomorrow and say, hey, actually, my house is more expensive now, so I need you to pay me another $1,000 a month so I can afford a nicer house. They might try it, but that's not how it works, right? So I got to figure out, how does my personal economy evolve with this?
What's that percentage on the right?
This one?
Yeah.
This is interest rates, mortgage rates. Okay. And this is the yellow line is the interest rate, how it's tracked over time, and the pink is the median sales price. Okay. So if you look at this on a housing affordability, this is interesting. This is Utah's statistics, and this tracks October of last year, November of last year, December of last year, the average for last year. So this is really interesting because just as a reminder, what is the perfect affordability number? Okay, 100. So if we look at this number right now, we ended the year at 77. A perfectly affordable market has an affordability index of 100. That means exactly 1/3 of the median income is exactly what a person would need to make a mortgage payment at today's rates on a median price home, okay? Anything under 100 suggests that it's going to take more than 30% of their income, okay? So what we're looking at here is a 77. If you recall back in 2011, 2012, kind of that era, we got into like 120, 130 affordability. So people they're buying stuff as fast as they could. They had extra money left over. It was an exciting time for a lot of people. But now they're looking at it oppositely of that, of saying, well, I'm supposed to be able to live on 30% of my income, but now it's costing me 40% to maintain my household, okay? But does that mean it's not doable? So this is where the personal economy piece comes into place, because if someone is making a decision purely off this, they would say, well, if this says it's unaffordable, that must mean it's unaffordable for me. But what people have to look at is what is their current circumstances and what are their needs. This is one of the biggest shifts we forgot about the shift in the market is a lot of the decisions being made on buying and selling right now are what does my family need more than what do I want? Okay. Now there's some element of a combination there, but it's a lot more need driven than want driven than it was before. So when people need to move, I need more bedrooms. I need a better quality of life. I don't want to live next to Marcus anymore. I'm moving. Those are like real driving factors to make a move. They're willing to move, even in the event that across the board, the affordability is this. Here's the point I want to make with this though. October 75, November 75, December 77. We ended the year 77. So are we tracking in the right direction or wrong direction?
Right.
In the right direction. So do we anticipate this will continue to go that direction? I'll show you some stats that suggest that it will continue to go that direction. But what are going to be we already determined interest rates aren't going to be the biggest move this year. What must move for affordability to continue to get closer to 100? Okay, income. So are we seeing Utah's income finally start moving in the right direction? Okay, is that a lead measure? Well, let me say this. Does this show up as a lead or a lag off of income? Lag, because it has to be reporting for a certain amount of time on income before it's like actually takes an effect in the marketplace. Okay, so we've actually seen income increasing in Utah now for 18, 24 months. I anticipate that we're going to continue to see this go up because income has increased in the state of Utah. And not that it will continue, but it has been. So this will start to show up. What else has to change? Not interest rates. We talked about interest rates. We talked about income. What's the other third thing that has to move? Price. So this is the one that's a little interesting. I got some slides that show it. What's going to actually happen with pricing? And it depends on segment of the market, right? So we'll get into that a little bit later. But think about that in relation to this. Question number 2. Are home prices in Utah too high? Should I wait for a drop? Do you guys hear that from clients?
Yeah.
A lot?
Yeah.
Are they, what about a Utah native versus someone moving from somewhere else?
Somewhere else, people are like, oh my gosh, these prices are great. And the people that have grown up here, they're like, how am I gonna make my kids
Yeah.
get a house?
Well, it's interesting. If you think about it, a couple of years ago, someone from California was like, I'll buy 3, right? And then I got to a point of like, I'll buy 2. And now it's like, no, buy 1. Better than California, right? So it's changed a little bit because our prices have gone up way faster than theirs have come down. Okay, a big spike in appreciation. Why did our prices, particularly in Utah, why did our prices spike so hard, so fast?
Migration.
Okay, net in migration. Okay, what caused people to come to Utah? Jobs,
Recreation.
recreation, open space, affordability. Okay, we just named 4 things that draw people to Utah. One of them has changed. The other 3 have not. Do people still want the other 3 things we talked about? Do we still have something that people want in the country? Absolutely. We'll show you. We're creating jobs faster than almost any other state. Okay, our economy is robust. Our GDP is great in relation to the country. We've got great recreation. We got good air quality on days. But the point I'm making is a lot of times we get caught up in what the news is saying nationally when there's still so much demand here. Okay. Remember when I talk about buyer demand, I break it into 2 pieces. What do I break it into? Buyer desire and buyer ability. Thank you. Someone's listening to me. Buyer desire. Is buyer desire still huge in Utah?
Yeah.
Yes. Is buyer ability still huge? No. It's decreased a little bit, but is it still significant? There are still plenty of buyers. Their personal economy still say this is the right move for them. Okay. Some people have been priced out of the market, but not everybody's been priced out of the market. So buyer desire remains high. So why are consumers asking this? They feel emotional whiplash from rapid appreciation and assume a correction must follow. We've had massive price increase. Something must change. Something's got to change. They just think it's inevitable. They can't explain it. They don't have any data to support it, but the news is talking about it and it must happen because I believe it to be so. It's their current reality. Okay. What is the underlying principle? They forget the price is governed by supply and demand. not how you feel about it. And it's really not about trends. History can teach us something about the market, but it is not a predictor of the market. Okay. So remember 2008, how many of you were in business in 2007, 2008? What was supply like in 2007, 2008? Oh my goodness. Take your pick. There's a whole street of new houses being built on speculation, or the whole line of new houses built on speculation that there's no buyers for. Take your pick. Okay.
Existing.
Massive supply. Okay. Was there big demand too? There was big demand for in 2004, 2005, but all of a sudden 2007, 2008, when lenders were like, we can't lend to you anymore. Okay. There's a problem. Think about that in relation to supply and demand now. Realistically, what is a healthy supply market? Okay, from the federal government, they think 6 months supply is healthy. What do you guys actually think? 3 to 4? Okay, 3 I like because things are, to me, that's a robust hustling market. 4 is still healthy. 5 is like, okay, now I'm getting like a little weary as an agent, but government saying 6 is healthy. Okay, I think that's a little bit, I'm all of a sudden like, oh, okay, what's going on in the market? Okay, think about where are we at right now?
So in Ignite the other day, we looked it up. That was less than a week ago. We're at 6 months supply in Davis County.
It's at Davis County, 6 months right now. Okay, we'll look at some stats there. I haven't seen the 6 month yet. Did you pull that for the all of last year, or just in comparison to last year, just right now?
And did that click down and did absorption rate.
Okay, so 6 months in Davis County. Where are we in Weber? I imagine we're a little bit lower in Weber. What, that one scared me, so I remember that one. We'll come back to that because I want to look at that because I think there's a reason Davis County is going to, there's going to be less movement in Davis County than Weber County. And
I agree with
I'm going to point out a couple things of why I think that's true.
Yeah.
So prices is by supply and demand. Waiting is a bet, not a neutral decision. So this I think is really important when you're going through this process with someone of saying, well, it may be the right move for you, but are you a betting person? Let's talk about what you're betting on. You're betting on, well, let me ask you, someone that decides that says, I would actually like to buy in the next 5 years, but what am I betting on by saying I'm going to wait a couple of years?
I think the prices will drop.
Okay, I'm betting on inventory increase because if inventory increases and there's less buyers, prices generally come down. Okay, so I'm betting prices are going to come down because there's going to be less buyer demand. What else am I betting on? I'm betting that rates will come down. I'm betting that maybe my income will be better. Okay, that one they might have some control over that one. But do they have control over prices going up in the marketplace? Do they have control over interest rates? What is our best indicator of any of those? Economic principles that have supported our country for how many years? So that's what we got to look at is you're betting against economic principles that have been proven over time. So would you put money on that bet? And that's exactly what they're doing is they're putting money on it. It's always an interesting question to say, hey, if we were in Vegas right now and we weren't playing blackjack and you had an opportunity to actually put money on the table to say, I think prices in Utah are going to come down. And I think that the interest rates are going to come down to 4.5%. Would you put $1,000? Would you put $20,000 on that bet? No. Well, in essence, by not buying today, history says that you're making a $20,000 bet today that's going to be true. Let me show you why. Okay, that gets people thinking in a different way. Let's look at the stats on this. So these are some of the forecasters. I like this graph because it shows a lot of different sources forecasting what they think prices are going to do in 2026. And it is really interesting. You look at like third party, like Moody Analytics, that their whole job is just analyze. I'm a data nerd, analyze, say what it is, no end game for me. Okay, versus like Realtor.com is, oh, I got to help agents see what the really is going to happen. I got to keep them excited and buying leads in the marketplace, right? Versus like a Wells Fargo or a NAR. Look, NAR is the highest predictor out of all of them, which is interesting to me because who are NAR's clients? Us. Okay, we got to keep agents really excited about the market. Okay, not saying that's what they're doing, but that's the ecosphere they live in, right? So it's interesting to look all the way across here. MBA is the one with the lowest, that's -0.3, so almost a break even. On average, a 1.6 appreciation growth across the country. What does the federal government think is healthy?
2 to 3.
They want to see 3 to 4% in appreciation. To them, that's a healthy market. That's a lot of the fiscal policy they're making is our home prices appreciating across the country at about a 2 to 4, somewhere in that 3% range. And if it's not, if something's out of whack, we need to change the fiscal policy to either speed it up or slow it down. Okay. Normally, this is the problem is there's momentum behind this. So by the time it gets up to, let's say 4, 5, 6%, that's off policy they made way back here. And now they get drastic with it. And now before those results show up, it starts going the other way. They haven't quite figured out how to like tailor it out a little bit. I wish they could. But if you look at this, I think actually somewhere in here is probably pretty accurate for the country, 1.6. What would you, as a professional, what do you predict is going to happen in Utah?
Stable.
Probably double that. We're always higher.
Okay, it's true. We normally outperform the country. I like that on an average. I think what's interesting is normally you could say averages across the market a lot easier. I think the market segments are going to be a lot more interesting this year. And what do I mean by that? I mean, luxury, for example, is I think we might see that slow down a little bit more. I think that some of that, the people that are buying in the luxury market, I think are in some element a little bit more at risk with an economic change this coming year. There's a little bit more uncertainty for them. So I think there's going to be some more hesitation in that market. We might see an actual decrease in that market, but at the same time, that first time, second or move up buyer in the state of Utah, buyer desire remains pretty dang high. If interest rates can stay relatively stable, incomes increase a little bit, I could see us doubling this in that price point. You know, anything that really under $1 million could come in at 3-4%, which again, as a Utah, and you're like, well, what happened to our double digits? That's not normal. And frankly, it's not healthy. Okay. This is healthy moving forward. But out of all of these people that get paid a lot of money to predict what's going to happen in our economy, and they know everything that's going on with the tariffs and Trump and politics and all the things, they're analyzing that on a deeper level than we are. They have every reason to say negative numbers, but this is the numbers they're landing on and putting their hat on. Okay. So again, going back to that idea of someone putting money on the table in Vegas and betting on it, is there a pretty good chance there's going to be appreciation in our market? Pretty dang good chance, particularly in Utah. Yes.
Any reason why MBA are predicting so much lower?
I'd have to dig into that a little bit more of why they thought that versus anyone else. Anyone have some perspective on that?
And that's nationwide.
Any perspective? Yeah, Nate, this is nationwide. Okay. Let's look at U.S. home prices. We're going to touch on this briefly. We've talked about it before. The yellow line shows a long-term average of 4%. If all the way back to 1990, they had to start somewhere with an inclination of starting at 4% increase over time. You can see we should have saw something happening here. This is 21% above the trend line. We had a crash. 15 years basically of underneath that where we should have been. And now we're above that by 7.2% nationwide. So I always kind of look at it as like, if I cut those off and stuff them in here, am I kind of building a graph that's consistent? Okay. If I cut that off and filled that and there was some left over, maybe we're going too fast. But all of that fits inside of there. So that being said, let me show you Utah's. Oh, I'll show you Utah's in a minute. It's on a different graph. But when we get to Utah's is significantly higher here. And that's the argument a lot of people are making about Utah is that we have overappreciated too fast, which is true. The question becomes, is what drove the overappreciation? It wasn't over speculation. It wasn't overbuilding in the marketplace. It wasn't a credit issue like 2008. It was people actually coming to Utah wanting to buy and wanting to live here. Okay. We're going to run through that one. This is another one that I think is really interesting for this conversation. This shows 2024 to 2030 projected housing demand. So as you guys know, developers and cities are constantly looking down the road of like, how do we build infrastructure for where we're going? And you can look at what this looks like in the state of Utah is, let's even look at Weaver County, for example. There needs to be, based on this study, we need 10,477 more homes than we currently have. Okay, by 2030. How far away is 2030?
5 days away.
Is this really possible?
Mhm.
Even if builders got after it, it would be hard to hit that number. We got a long runway. It would have to be that all of a sudden Utah becomes so undesirable that people don't want to live here. And maybe Elon figured out a way to get people on Mars and it's awesomer than Utah. I don't know. But where else in the US is more desirable than Utah? Geographically, hard to argue nowhere. Recreationally, hard to argue nowhere. Economically, maybe some places like Tennessee, Oklahoma, you can get a house for a lot cheaper. That could draw someone there. But like, even if they're off a little bit, I imagine buyer demand in Utah is going to stay strong. What does that mean for you as an agent?
Money.
It means money. It means there's a lot of families that are going to need help over the next several years. The question is, let's say 2035. Let's jump ahead 10 years. This is honestly my big question. My big question isn't, are people going to be buying and selling a lot of houses in Utah? They will be. My big question is, what role does a real estate agent play in the transaction? And what I mean by that is real estate is changing so fast that how we show up right now for the consumer and how we serve them is going to determine if a real estate agent and how a real estate agent is involved in a transaction from 5-10 years from now. This is the big battle in our industry right now. Okay. You look at the big tech companies, they want the consumer to think a real estate agent's involved, but one that they hired for pennies on the dollar. Okay. Look at the Redfin model. Okay. Who's now owned by Rocket. Okay. This is where we got to show up at a higher level right now, which again, I'm preaching to the choir here, but our industry has to show up to your level. We got to do better. Or either that, or we got to eat up more market share as the professionals. Okay, which we can do. Let's keep going. Is there another housing bubble? I like that someone brought this up because a lot of people have kind of skipped this one and put it to the side, like they think it's been put to bed, but people are still talking about it. Why consumers are asking about this? Media pattern matching. So if you look at the media, they like to look historically at what's got a lot of views and likes, and they're like, oh, our ratings are down. What worked before? Oh, let's say that again. It's just in a new way. Okay. They love controversy. They love this idea of pulling things forward. So media pattern matching, they remember the pain, not the causes. Okay. And I think that's a really important statement in talking this through with a client is if it's a current reality for them, what could be the current reality? For example, if I'm a 30-year-old first-time home buyer right now, how old was I in 2005? I was 10. Okay. I was 10 and my parents were losing their house and sitting around the kitchen table crying about being foreclosed on. Could that be playing into my current reality and thinking, oh, prices are overvalued again? I remember what that's like. I don't want to do that to my kids. Okay. So it's understanding acknowledge the pain, but let's get them to a new spot of what are the causes. Underlying principle, 2008 was a credit bubble, not a housing bubble. Like we still talk about it as the housing bubble, but was it really a housing bubble? No, it was a credit bubble. Okay. Today's market is equity rich and credit tight. Who can tell me what that means? Justin.
There's more money in people's equity than ever before. And I think I saw a statistic, average credit score is like 750, 760 for a homeowner.
Okay, so this, you know that if we were to change this sentence to match 2005, equity poor, credit loose. Okay, that's what it was.
No job needed.
What they're comparing to us to is the exact opposite from a description of what the market is. The only thing that's similar is prices are high. But why are they high? Does it make sense now why prices are high versus then? So I thought that was a really interesting way to put it. Maybe I already looked at that. But I wanted to show you the Utah one. This was what's interesting to me is we were, yes, like the country, we were above, we crashed. But looking back at that now, remember what that felt like? It felt like a crash. It felt scary. Now looking at it, I'm like, what are we so scared about? Then you got back to the yellow line. We beat the country in crossing the yellow line. boy, have we made a run at it. What was this number for the US? What percent above? 7.2%, and here we are at 49% above. So if I was just looking at data, this one graph, would I have fears and be scared about the market?
Yeah.
Why do I feel okay about it?
The education behind it.
Well, who moved here
Economic
in
indicators.
2021?
Say that again.
Because of the economic indicators in Utah.
Oh, you mean there's stuff outside of this graph that matter? So remember, this is every time your client comes to you with this, I believe this to be true. Somewhere they're looking at this, whether it's this graph or something else, they've grabbed onto one piece of data to confirm their reality. Like think about when you want to buy a new car, let's say I love trucks. So if I'm looking at buying a new F-150, do I start noticing every F-150? And if someone tells me how awesome Dodges are, I'm just like, but if someone tells me how awesome Fords are, I'm like, yeah, tell me, you're confirming what I want to hear. Okay. When they grab onto one piece of information, this is where they're sitting, is they believe it to be true until we say, do you believe there's stuff outside here that also affects this? Okay. And that's asking good questions. It starts by saying, hey, I'm the pro, flashing your badge. I mean, your real estate license. Saying, I'm the pro, this is what it is. You got to take them through this process. Okay. Justin, you were saying something. Did you have something you wanted to add to this?
Just who moved here in 2021?
Who was it?
People with high paying jobs that wanted more space and made this home. And increased our prices.
All of a sudden, we already had good buyer demand, right? We had buyer desire, we had buyer ability. All of a sudden that went on fire because of who else wanted to come. Okay. I think that's a great point. And so what I believe to be true, why I don't believe it to be true with this, I think this graph is probably right, maybe a slight adjustment. My personal opinion is this yellow line is no longer valid for the state of Utah. Because why does it start in 2003 as the baseline? Yet on the national graph, they've decided 1990 was the start of the baseline. So somewhere, I still believe economically, it's not even if I believe it or not. Federal government comes out and says, we want 4% across the country. Okay, they're making decisions based on the country. Why did we start our baseline at 2003 and not somewhere earlier, not somewhere after? Somewhere in here, I believe what needs to happen is this yellow line needs to be slashed and readjusted for the state of Utah because of who we are. Bradley.
So NAR released some data about Utah's appreciation being about 6% over the last 30 years. So I went back and pulled that, and it is a lot more similar to the national graph if it is adjusted to 6%.
Starting in what year?
Like 95.
Okay, so I love this. Did it actually print a graph for you and show a graph, or just like give you some words around it? Because I'd be interested to see that graph.
I went and pulled the data from the MLS and then made the graph myself.
You sent it to me?
Marcus has never been-
Is this? If you weren't already agreeing, I would just like adopt you.
That we go from like the 6% appreciation back down to a standard like 4. Because the 6 won't stay at that high forever.
It won't. And that's the question is Utah's proven that it outperforms the country, period. Until when? Until it doesn't. So it hasn't happened yet, right? It could until Great Salt Lake goes away. But I think that's a really interesting point you made, because we as professionals, we do the same thing our consumers do a lot of times. We look at a graph and be like, oh, that must be the whole story. We can't do that anymore. We got to be better. So Bradley, you're making the suggestion, if you go back to like 1995, open this up, draw that yellow line on a 6% instead of a 4%, which makes sense in Utah over the last 30 years. It's much more in line. This gap will look bigger, which it really was, and it lines up better. Okay, let's get that graph out. I think that's gonna be interesting to see. Great point.
I use a graph that, I don't know if it's because the years were different, but it's from, in a comparison show clients where we were at 67% above the trend line. Remember that one?
Yep.
I mean, it's just like, so like night and day, like it's data that you can't, anyways, super easy.
Yeah. And I think just keep in mind, this is all true too for sellers and buyers. Okay. If your job is not to manipulate the data to get them to do what you want them to do. I want to be very clear. That will ruin our industry. There are enough false players out there. Your job is to understand the data so that you can organize it in a way that helps people get to where they need to go and that they might not even see. That's different than manipulating the data for what you want. Okay, because you can do that. That's the fallacy of being better with numbers, is you can start manipulating data to serve you instead of the consumer, but it shows up over time. Okay. So I think this is an interesting point from a seller standpoint. If the seller's looking at me like, I've got so much equity in the house, why would I ever move? Well, they're just trading the equity, right? If they're saying, well, I need to move from Farmington to Mountain Green, yes, I've got a lot of equity. I'm not buying a cheaper house, but I'm just going to trade that equity to here. Okay, but it serves my family differently. This is where we want to be. They need help understanding that, because in their mind they'll be like, I bought this house for so cheap and I've got all this equity now. Well, yeah, let's just trade the equity over here. And maybe you have to borrow a little bit more money, or maybe your payment's going to be a little bit higher for a minute. But let's talk about the value of the lifestyle. I'm not convincing you to do it, but let's at least talk through the value of the lifestyle here. Is that worth an extra $400 a month for you to be able to walk out and see your cows in the back pasture instead of seeing your neighbors, right? I don't know. Let's talk about it. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving here. What time do I have, Tel? I'm doing good.
I think 5 to 1.
So U.S. annual home sales, the one thing to keep in mind is this shows the number of new home sales that were going out of control back here. But then we dropped. We're still closing this gap. Even if you take all these above the 36-year average, which realistically population has increased. 36-year average is probably too big of a span. It's probably somewhere like we probably need to be somewhere up in here because the population's increased significantly. Like, we're still so far behind across the country. We just looked at Utah a minute ago of how many housing, what the housing demand is. I mean, across the country, we still need a lot of houses. Population is going to continue to increase. I thought this was interesting. For the first time in a while, we're starting to see foreclosure rates go up a little bit. Not enough to like really throw a stick out. I've got a couple friends that are like, we're relearning the foreclosure market. We're talking to banks about REO accounts. I'm not to that point yet, personally. I think there's enough point on it. And to Justin's point, that most people are still equity rich. The big question I'm watching is, as consumer debt increases and people are trying to maintain a lifestyle that they've liked, and maybe they bought a house that costs them another $400 a month, but they want to maintain the lifestyle. Are their credit card bills going up? At some point, they're going to be forced into a decision of, okay, I can't carry a credit card at 20% anymore. I have equity in my house. Do I refinance? Do I get a HELOC? Do I get a second mortgage to wipe that? Well, that builds me a bridge for a while. And maybe that second payment's at a 9 or 12% payment on top of my other one. So I bought myself some time, but I didn't buy myself forever. Okay. So at that point, they got to start making some decisions. But the point is, they have time to make decisions to sell and take advantage of that equity. I don't see a lot of people ending in that foreclosure spot. The person that does economy.
They simply said that there's about 4%, and I think this was Utah specific, there's about 5% of the homes that are in default at 30 days, but it drops to like less than 2% at 90 days in default. But credit card debt is default is at an all-time high, and student loan all-time high peak. So not just like there's a lot of debt, but the default are at an all-time high.
Well, and I think with the student debt too, for so long, they kept saying they were gonna forgive them, So everybody got excited that they were gonna be forgiven, and then they weren't.
They didn't get spent on money somewhere else. They went to spend money on other things.
Yeah. So, but is a default on a student loan a lead indicator potentially to increase foreclosure? Yes. Is default on credit cards potentially a lead indicator to increase of foreclosures? Yes, because ultimately what they're doing is they're using the easiest options first and not changing their habits.
Exactly, and it's easier to not pay your credit card versus your car payment or your house payment, right? So if you don't pay your car payment, they're gonna come repossess your vehicle. If you don't pay your house payment, you're gonna get a notice of default. But for a credit card and student debts are the easiest ones to default on. But at some point, you can only default for so long until you fall into default on other things.
I think I think that's a really important point for us to watch. We'll continue to watch consumer debt. We'll continue to watch student loan defaults. And hopefully they're gonna be disappointed about it, but hopefully they're fiscally responsible enough to, one, change their spending habits. And then two, make decisions early enough because they have equity, and a lot of these people have equity to deal with the problem. If they ignore it is when they get to this point, which there's, again, the timeline. Where we saw such a huge push on this is they didn't have a timeline to react. It was like, I'm in trouble and the bank's calling me today. And I have no solutions. Okay, people have options for a minute. One quick side note on this, and I'm gonna come to you guys' questions though, just because it just popped into my head. Please talk to your kids about money. Like I see so many kids now living
Instagram life.
an Instagram life or Pinterest life. They can afford it, great, but my concern is they think money's at their fingertips, and that's part of the problem we're living in with consumer debt right now. Is like I've got college age kids that are getting credit card promises like, you qualify for $50,000. I'm like, how do they qualify for $50,000? Like, I know what they make, and it's not much. Okay, it could be scary for the next generation if we're not having these conversations with our kids. Okay.
Thing too, you see them throw them away, like, you don't have to give them to your kids.
I think that's
I do
good.
too.
I think that's good, and
And
they'll find a way
like
to have a
yeah.
conversation.
Right,
Be like,
right.
let's play this out. What if you spent this money? Let's play it out. What would you like? Make it fun. What if you were to skip the credit card? What would you go buy? What does that look like? How valuable would that be in 6 months from now to you? Okay. What would it feel like when the bank starts calling you? What would it look like when you have a kid come in and you want to buy a house and you can't? What will it look like when, like, that's, I think you could throw it away to avoid it, but I think you address it. Just be like, let's talk, let's flesh it out.
Right.
What is 10 years ago, what was the average age of a first time home buyer? It was 23. What is it today?
40.
A little over 40. I'm 45. That's what I was looking for. I have nothing else to say about it. Let's not open for that. But the point I'm making is I look at my kids, if they gotta wait till they're 45 to buy their first house, that's where most wealth is created. So let's have these conversations. Sorry, comment here and here.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because like in 2020 and 2021, that's where we see the dip in foreclosures, but then there was also all those policies put in place that was like halting foreclosures from happening, correct? So then is it really rising necessarily, or is it we're just seeing the numbers change because of the difference that was happening in that time?
Yeah, remember there was furlongs going on here. People they're pushing out. How many of you had money put in your account that you didn't even ask for? I'm just like, quit sending me money. You don't want it, right? Because it's like I knew what it was doing to our economy. This does play into that. Like you can see 2022, 23, we're pretty average here. Like there really wasn't anything here. There is a little bit of a bump here. And Rusty hit the nail on the point. The thing we got to watch is credit card, consumer debt, and watch what happens here. But just keep in mind, we're equity rich if people will be fiscally responsible.
Sorry, I should have spoke up on the last slide, really. So when I kind of went off on my own little tangent here and looked at some of the market statistics in Utah real estate. And it showed that we actually had more contracts that were sold this December than last December. And it just put in my mind, I'm asking for like a feeling really, because it's in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, we don't have the inventory for it, but yet people are still buying. Do you feel like, and I guess this is a question for the room, do you feel like that people are lowering their expectations and they're accepting more faults on a home than maybe they were in the past because there just isn't the availability there, or?
Who wants, anyone have
In a home.
anyone have a thought process?
I do think clients, when their picture of $1 million house 5 years ago was very different than what they actually are gonna get today. So I think it has been a little bit of people's expectations have changed a little bit as far as we're gonna buy a house. No, we're not gonna get 10 out of 10 things that we want. We might have to settle a little bit because stay in our budget, that's just not a reality anymore.
So high supply, the bigger the supply is, the more pleasure points someone can make a decision off of. Less supply, the more pain points they have, forces a quicker decision, okay? So that, again, going back to your point is a lower supply, but still a higher demand, the two things combined. It's now, maybe if someone's purely driven by pleasure points, this is my list of 10 things I want, but I'm okay over here because 8 of them are taken care of. But if I find the other 2, they'll be more picky. Someone over here that's like, I literally have 1 out of 10 things I need over here. I need to move. 6 out of 10 is much better than 1 out of 10. Buy me that house. I'm going to buy it. Okay. So that's our job to gauge in that conversation of like, tell me about your current house situation. Let's analyze that first. Is that the right place for you? Why are we even considering making a move in this market? Let's get a feel for it. Let's have the conversation. Then you're identifying that piece of it of like, what are you looking for from a pleasure standpoint? Because that used to be the fun thing of a buyer's agent. It'd just be like, let's go find you all the things you want. This is gonna be so fun. I'm going to be the hero. And now it might be like, all right, well, you don't get those things. Right. But
Housing you're gonna like.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
Probably gonna lose it and get you.
yeah, you're walking to that house, don't you like it too much because they got 15 offers. Don't hurry, right? It's a different game. It's a different game now, but here's the point I'm making is it's the game we gotta play. And it's not a game we gotta play. Yes, I want you all to make a ton of money. I want you guys to live a great life. But it's the game you've got to play at a high level. The consumer needs you more now than they needed you 5-6 years ago. Like they had fun with you 5-6 years ago. They need you now. They need a professional. They need you to show up differently. Okay, great points. Can we keep moving? We've already talked about this. This is just interesting to see like when historically over the history of time, all the way back to 1954, when has the market actually depreciated ever over time? And you're going to see a couple times less than 1% back in Eisenhower's time. When I was wreaking havoc as an 11-year-old kid, savings and loan crisis went down 2.5%. We lived through the biggest one since 1954, the Great Recession and housing crisis. And I wish it said credit crisis there was the biggest one, but we recovered and we've been back. Even with COVID, it slowed way down, but negative 0.43, like very little across the country. Has there ever been times of depreciation in the marketplace?
And this is across the country, not Utah.
That's US. Yeah. And we've outperformed, right? If you actually look back to Utah back here, we were like no man's land, right? It's like we were like treated like Nevada almost. So it's just like, how quickly can we drive through this state? But then people discovered who we were. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Back one more time. You just take a picture. Please.
We will send these slides.
Oh,
out.
okay.
You can take-
Do you feel so much more aerodynamic without your beard?
I do.
I'm gonna watch you walk through here.
You watch that.
You look really good.
Thank you very
always
much.
look good. You look so
Yeah.
Once the US economy crashes in 2026, were you hearing this one? The economy's gonna crash. Whatever side they're on politically, so-and-so is gonna ruin the economy. Okay, so this one, I see this one a lot, just like, I'm burying money in my backyard now, okay? Not me. Gold, like gold and silver this week, right? How often have I had the gold and silver argument over the last couple of years? Now, I want to call all those people this week and be like, don't you? So why consumers are asking this? National headlines bleed into local fear. Are both sides just attacking our economy on a day-to-day basis? Insane. Do people have a right to be scared and have some fear around the US economy? Yeah. Okay. So It's not that they're wrong to think about this. It's how does this trickle all the way down to Utah, to Weber Davis County, to you? That's the question they gotta be answering, is how could this impact you, regardless of what you believe? How does this trickle all the way down to you? What is the underlying principle? It's real estate is local. So what you're hearing nationally will have some element of an impact, but it will, by the time it gets all the way down to us, what was the actual impact it will have? Real estate is local, employment driven, and lagging. Everything you're seeing right now, them saying we're going to make fiscal policy changes. How long does it take for fiscal policy to get through? Years. So yeah, in 10 years from now, when that actually shows up in our market, that may have an effect on our market. But by that time, we'll have appreciated 4% per year over the last 10 years. Okay, something along those lines. Employment driven, and it's lagging. So let's look at and housing follows jobs. I'm going to fly through this real quick because we all love our state. I'm just going to show you a couple of things that are important about Utah. You guys saw me talk a little bit about the new Utah. How many of you were in the room when I talked about the new Utah? Okay, awesome. So the country's looking at us different. We are a completely different state than we were before. So we used to be considered one of the small states. Population, we were 34th. We're on our way up. We're higher than 30th now. Internal growth rate, we're one of the fastest growing ones, and it's not just based on internal growth. That used to be the national joke, is Utah's only growing because we're having babies. We've actually slowed down on the number of babies we're having here, but we're still growing at a faster pace than we ever have before. We're starting to be an older community. Why is that important? Older people have what?
Money.
I'm so glad you didn't say arthritis. Yeah, older people have more money. If people have more money, they're spending more money, right? So they have more opportunity for our economy to be robust. We're more multicultural, which I love. I love that piece of the growth of our state. We went from a strong economy. We always looked at it as like, yeah, they're slow and steady. But now we're really considered elite. Like there are states that literally come here to meet with our governor to say, how are you doing? Like it doesn't make sense how strong you guys are. Show us how you're doing it, which is awesome. This is our going to continue to be our Achilles heel, affordable housing. It's how do we make it affordable for our kids? And so when I see I almost wish I was showing you a graph that our prices were going to go down for the next couple of years. I wish that was the case because my kids are still about maybe 5-10 years from buying houses. But it's just not the case. So how can we fix the affordability issue? Is it going to be different zoning? We're already seeing that happen. Okay. Is it figuring out some new ways to build that are cheaper? We see new things coming out all the time. Unfortunately, it's not going to be land prices. A lot of times, historically, we saw prices come down because people had to sell land and they'd sell land cheaper. Who owns land now? Really rich people. Church. And if really rich people own land, they'll just like, I'll keep getting the tax benefit off of it. Wait 15 years. It's true. I don't need to sell it. Okay. And so it's something's going to shake here, and it's probably going to be density a lot. So we'll see a lot more of the multifamily and things like that going on. Hey, what's that?
You're seeing it in farming.
Oh, I know.
Density.
I know. It's funny because I want to go fight some of it so bad. But at the same time, I want it. So I just want it somewhere else.
Some of the affordability though is a mindset too, because there's a lot of people who could really afford this townhome, but they're like, I want a single family home.
Yep.
And then you show them the single family homes that are in their price point and they go, well, it doesn't have a third car garage or veranda.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of it's the mindset, like this is what you can get. This is what's affordable.
Yeah.
And it's a mind shift. And I think it starts with the people in this room too.
Yeah, I think that's true. And the beautiful thing about housing, even though it's like everyone wants it now, is if you buy the right house that doesn't have granite, it doesn't mean you bought a house without granite forever. Because maybe in 5 years, 10 years, instead of them doing a move up to a different house, it's let's remodel. Let's put in the granite. Let's put in the deck. But they have the bones to do it. They've now appreciated to do it. In fact, that house could actually pay for the remodel on it and helping them see that. But it is the same thing of like, no, I want it now. Well, you can't afford it now. Okay. Great. These are all good. The question is are we having these kind of conversations with our clients? Like not saying like, hey, dummy, you can't afford this. But can we have this conversation to be like, hey, your current reality is you want these things. and you're not willing to budge unless you get these things. Will kind of change your perspective on what it takes to get that now. Okay, so regardless of what you're seeing on Zillow, houses actually cost this amount for these type of things, okay? So it's just taking them through this process, but again, just so many things about Utah is there's like economic growth. We're best in the nation from economic growth, like us and whatever this little state is right there. Highlights, I'll send this out so you guys can read some of the highlights. Don't breeze over this stuff. These are good little things for you to know, like in conversation, like you don't, it's just one good for you to know, and you don't know when you're gonna need to pull it in to this part of the conversation from a data perspective, okay? So instead of memorizing 146 slides, I've tried to narrow it down to like, what are the things you should know that you can pull out? And I try to tie it back to the question in, so you can tie it to that. What if I lose my job and my income changes? We hear from people like this. I want to do it, but I'm just a little nervous about what's going on. High interest rates amplify fear. I'm going to go a little bit faster for a minute because I've got some other stuff I want to talk about. High interest rates amplify fear of committing an underlying principle. Housing decisions are stability decisions, not speculation. I think this is important, is a lot of times people are making decisions now off of stability and safety more than they are just like, well, I kind of want it. Sounds fun. Like, I want these things. Like, yeah, that was a good house, but I want the big garage. I want the big, whatever it is. Now making more of a conversation. I put stability, but really it's safety. It's, yeah, if we did that, like, yeah, we can afford the extra $1,000 a month right now in a mortgage payment. But am I secure enough in my job that I think I'm still gonna be employed in a year from now? Right? If they're in medical care, probably they're gonna be okay. If they're in tech and work for a startup tech company, maybe not, right? So it's like helping them think through that and be like, hey, let's talk about what's the probability. I know you're nervous about it. I know you can afford it now. Like, so let's just talk through probabilities. Like, what is the likelihood that company folds? So let's play it out. What if I think you're doing great? Your company's going to sell for $1 billion. What if you had to come up with a new job? How desirable are you in the marketplace? Oh yeah, well my skill set's good. I'm going to be picked up. Okay, help them make through that decision. We already talked about this. Oh, this is annual household income. Oh, this one actually is interesting. I want to touch on this. Because this one I think is really interesting. If you look at that annual household income in thousands needed to buy a house. So in 2021, you needed 95,000 in Utah to afford a median priced home. And now in 2025, you've got have a household income of 149,000, which is interesting. And I think what we're going to see is in Utah is a higher percentage of dual income families. Like historically in Utah, more than other states, we've seen single income families or one plus a part-time or something like that. I think what's going to happen is there are going to be more and more people in Utah and they're saying like, I just want to buy a lower house. They'll say, no, we're going to figure out how to do this with dual income and still buy. Okay. So I think if you look at it from that standpoint, like people have the ability, two professionals coming out of college, both of them going to get an entry-level job, they're ending somewhere between 50 to 70,000, depending on what they're graduating in, right? Those individually, hard to buy a house. Together, they can figure it out, okay? This is the other interesting one. Think about it in relation to your database. People are staying in their houses longer. 1985 to 2008, 10-year was 6 years. We're now seeing people stay in their home an average of 9.3 years, okay? But it's interesting how that's showing up in your database. You look at your database, because there's so many people moving to Utah, the percentage is still the same as it was historically. About 6% of your database is going to be involved in a transaction side. That isn't 6% of your database is used. The thing I want to be clear on, that's not 6% of all homes are going to sell. 6% of your database is going to be involved in a transaction side, either a buy or a sell. Okay. But because Utah's growing at such a fast pace, that 6% still stays true for your database. If we slow down on creating inventory and people moving to Utah, that percentage will change. And it'll be less transactions per people in your database over time at some point. But that's an interesting thing to look at. Okay.
Marcus, is there anything other than like the increase in home prices that would cause that?
It's a big piece of this is increased age is one of it. Because normally people by the time they do their starter home, lot of times people stay longer in their second or third home because they're more stable. So as we increase age, more people are already in their second or third home. The second one is them trading equity. They're trading equity or trading rates. So they're like, oh, I would like to do it, but I'm comfortable here. Instead of buying that nice house, I'm just gonna buy both. Okay, they're kind of in that situation. So that's why we're seeing that. And this illustrates that. Utah mortgage rates, you look at 29% of all mortgages in Utah are 3% or lower. 38% are between 3 and 4%. So you look at all these people, for them to make a move right now, they've got to make a decision around interest rates. Okay. Is it smart to rent right now? So again, they're comparing monthly payment only, not long-term cost. Underlying principle, rent is a 100% expense. Ownership is a forced savings plan. It used to be like a very clear answer for me of it's stupid to rent. If you can buy. For some people, that's not the case anymore. If they're likely to have to make a move in the next couple of years, it might make sense for them to rent, even though it is 100% expense for them. There isn't a guarantee of a massive run-up appreciation like it used to be where they would make money. If they basically break even on price, they still got to pay a commission. They got to pay some moves. So if someone's like, we're here, but what is the new job? We don't know if it's going to work out. We're going to give it 2 years. It might make sense for them to rent, not always. Okay. So we've got to lead with what's best for the consumer. If you consult them to be like, hey, let's find you the right rental. And I think you're going to crush it in your job. And if something changes in a year from now, that gives you a 1 year runway. Let's talk again then. Okay. If you take that approach, there's a high likelihood they will use you in a year when it comes time. Okay. Let's just talk about rent prices. The one thing I am seeing is home prices appreciated at a very fast pace, and they're settling some. Rents have also appreciated at a very fast pace. Rents are correcting faster than home prices. So like we are seeing a lot of our rent rates actually have to be cut down to even what they were like 2019, 2018 to get them rented again. So it's interesting to see that correction is happening at a much faster pace than home prices for sale.
Prediction now is that will continue to probably decrease and stabilize mid to end of 27.
It's really interesting to me how many investors we talk to, because as you guys know, I have a lot of my own investment properties, but I manage a lot of properties. How many refuse to reduce their rent rate? No, last year I was getting 2,600. I'm like, yeah, but 2 years ago you were getting 1,800. like at one point you were happy with 1,800, but I got 2,600 last year. I'm like, but you will be vacant, like no income, or you can even do better than you did at 1,800. Let's get you at 2,100 and like fill this sucker up with great tenants. They just can't mentally get past it. It's really interesting. Is there enough inventory? We talked about inventory, but I'm just going to hit these couple pieces. They assume low inventory equals no options. That is, it doesn't mean there's no options. It means there's less options, but there still are options out there. Frankly, one of our jobs too is to create inventory. Remember, your job is to find inventory. The house I live in was not on the market at the time. This was 2016. It was really hard to find anything on the market. At that time, those of you that were in business and hustling, a lot of times you had a buyer and there were not enough properties on the market. You had to go find people like, I have a buyer. Are you willing to sell? No? Okay. What's your neighbor's name? Johnson? Thanks. Hey, Mr. Johnson, your neighbor. How long do you want? Do you want to sell? Like it was like that was the game for a while. Okay. So we have to create inventory. Underlying principle to teach inventory is recovering, not exploding. I do anticipate there will be more. The reason I think that more people are going to be open to the conversations, and a lot of people are saying, well, there's not more transactions happening now. There's more conversations happening now. Conversations lead to transactions. Okay. Hang your hat on that. I promise you, if you are having more conversations that aren't converting to transactions, give it time. Stay true to the conversations because the conversations will show up. But I believe that a lot of people over the last couple of years actually needed to list their home or buy the last couple of years, but they bought themselves some time thinking the market would correct. The market hadn't corrected, so we're going to see a little bit of that catch up in this coming year of people willing to say like, all right, I thought the market was going to change. It's not. I got to move. I can't wait any longer. Okay. Already talked about this. Should I by now wait till 27? We've already hit these. They want certainty before committing. Time in the market beats timing in the market. We already talked about these. Waiting only works if prices and rates drop. Waiting only work if prices and rates drop, which is a very rare combo. In fact, if you look historically, one will move, the other will not. Okay. We already talked about that. So we talked about what your consumer's thinking, but I want to spend a couple minutes talking about what agent fears are right now in the market. Talk about some statistics around that. How many of you in the room have some element of fear in relation to your real estate business? My hand's up, not encourage you to raise your hand. My hand's up because I have some concerns and fear about my own real estate business, okay, and my team. And I say that not like I want to go hide under a rock and avoid it. It's my job as the owner of my team to be concerned about the direction of my company. If I'm not concerned about the direction of my company, who is going to be? Nobody. Okay. So I say this, I've debated a little bit whether to use the word fear or not, but I think it's okay to acknowledge when you're feeling a little bit of nerves and fear around your business and your potential future income. Because if we don't take certain action, it goes away. Okay. So I want to just outline a couple of things that I think agents are thinking and see if you guys agree or not. Number one, there are too many agents. Is this even worth it anymore? How many of you, don't raise your hand, but just like pretend to raise your hand internally if this is true for you. How many of you in the last year thought like, is it even worth it anymore? Like I'll tell you that I coach a lot of real estate agents across the country. It's surprising how often I get this comment. Like, man, I'm burnt out. I don't know if I can do this anymore. Okay. And I'm like, you made $2 million last year. You want to throw in your hat? Like,
You want to go to
the
a job
agents
for
to that level.
50,000?
Okay.
What are you doing?
So it's interesting to me, and it's okay that we feel that way, but it's remember, one of the biggest things we talk about in our ecosphere is we're not in this just to make a bunch of money. We're in this to fund a great life. So if you're feeling burnt out, don't throw in the towel, because I believe you need to show up for the consumer. The consumer needs you. What I want you to do is start having conversations with either Rusty, myself, Sean, and talk through it so we can say, where can we leverage you? Where are you spending time that is actually causing you angst that isn't serving the consumer? Because a lot of times when you're in it, it's hard to see. Our job is to see it from this perspective. And if you guys want to have a conversation, we're here for you. Yes.
In my own personal, doing this for always those times after you have a hard client and stuff like that. So I always have to remind myself, they're not all like this, you know? So those are always like talking yourself into
Like your third kid, right? You think your second kid's gonna be like the first one, and your second one's different, like, oh man, you have a third, right? But I'm with you here, because it's, you look at it and say like, all right, that was very hard. They were rude to me every time I called. It was like nasty with me. Like that transaction couldn't be over fast enough. So part of that is, yeah, you have to go through some of that. But what if your business was in such a point that you told that client, like, hey, something's clearly not working here. Here's your buyer agency agreement. Like, I don't think I'm the right agent for you. Right? Let's cancel this. But part of that is do you have enough momentum that you have the ability to do that? So here's a couple underlying principles of this. The market is normalizing, not shrinking. So one of the things that I don't want agents to hang their hat on is, man, if we could just hurry and get back to 21, is that coming? Probably not. Okay. So the market is normalizing. Are you shifting your business strategy to match that market? And if it's not, then you are going to feel friction in your business. If you're willing to lean in and coming to our conversations in our classes, if you're willing to shift your business with it, it will feel painful for a moment, but then you'll create the momentum in the new market. Okay. Fewer transactions expose weak models. So if transactions are down for you or it feels more friction, it's not exposing a weak business person. It's not exposing a bad agent. I want to be clear with that. It's not you, it's the models and systems around you that you're implementing. And those can change. Okay. It's increasing skill sets, better leverage. Okay. A couple of interesting things. NAR and UAR membership is declining. One thing that people keep saying to me is like, I can't wait till all these agents get out of business. I think that actually numbers are going to stay very high. But I think that a lot of the people attracted to the business now, remember how much it takes to how much income it takes to afford a medium priced home? A lot of the people that are now attracted to the business aren't career agents. Who are they? I just need to sell 3 houses a year. I just got to figure out how to sell 2, 3 houses a year so my family can stay in this house. Okay. Is that who the consumer needs long-term? Like maybe as a transition, they can make it, but long-term, the consumer is looking for professionals, people showing up at a high level that know our business. So I think this level is going to stay high, but I think the number of agents that own a bigger piece of market share is going to change. Okay. And this graph, I think, shows that. Now, this was posted on NAR's website and got a lot of energy from agents, and NAR has now removed it from their website. Okay.
It's down.
So,
It's like it never existed.
so there's some argument on the validity of it, but even if it's off by 1% or 2, I think it's pretty close. Okay. And the point I'm making here is this is the number of deals the agents have done. So the percentage of agents that did 0 transactions last year, almost 1 million agents. Okay. They paid to get their license. They went 120 hours or more to get their license. They went to a couple sales meetings. They lost money last year. Okay.
And these are actually NAR members, so these are not like, I got a license and went inactive, or I got a license and I went to referral if I wasn't really planning to. These are active license, like active members of NAR.
Justin?
To me, it's 71% at Thanksgiving said, I'm a real estate agent. Tell me I can help you sell your house. And they didn't do any deals. And they're telling all their family, I do real estate.
And I think historically, people had family allegiance of being like, well, I've got to use my nephew. He's got his real estate license, even though he's flipping burgers at McDonald's. I've got some allegiance there, right? I think now in a market that they understand complexity, and if you've done a good job, those of you that came and talked to me about your brand DNA and how to tell your brand story, that conversation this week was awesome. And if you told your brand story early, they're going to tell their uncle or their nephew, like, sorry, man, I'll give you a $200 gift card to not use you because I need a professional. Okay? They really will, like a consumer that's getting that much value from someone, they're like, I promise I'll do something nice for you, but I can't give you a $10,000 nice. It's going to be something else. I need this person to save you money. Yeah.
I saw this, but I didn't notice it before. Do we know why there's 2 1 and 4?
Well, that's why they took it.
I think that's when they pulled it.
Yeah.
But somewhere in here, that's good. I didn't catch that, but I think that's interesting. But I mean, even if these percentages are off a little bit, the fact that 4 transactions, particularly, these are the agents that are also discounting. So they're like, I just got to do something. Like, pay me $2,500, I'll do it for you. All right, the contract. Or maybe let's say they're on average 7,000 a deal, or even 10,000 a deal for easy math. How long can you survive on 40,000 a year? It's tough. Okay. Yeah.
There's some great deals out there in Facebook Marketplace on like used property signs.
Right. People are like, I'm not selling nothing justified. The point I'm making here is every single person that is in real estate is either working their way up this list or down this list. Just because you secured your spot somewhere in here last year does not guarantee that's where you're at. And it's not just where you're at driven, it's consumer driven, it's market driven, it's skill set driven. This really is, I see this being more and more true, that there's going to be a small percentage of agents that own this. And it comes down to a couple things. And those of you that attended our brand story class earlier this week, is I'm hanging my hat on this. It's the consumer right now thinks everyone in the room does the exact same thing. That your value matches your value, that matches your value. It doesn't matter how long you've been in business. It doesn't matter how many people you served. In their minds right now, all agents are the same. So why wouldn't I pay the cheapest amount possible? Unless we get so clear on who you are individually. I believe that even though there's 50 people in the room, every one of you, even though you have the same real estate license, your brand story is unique to you. And if you live your brand story, you know what it is, you will resonate deep and hard with enough people to supply whatever lifestyle you want to have. But if you refuse to do that, like if you're like, I'm going to remain neutral so I can help as many people as I can, neutral people are moving down the list. People that really like discover what we're calling that your brand DNA and lean into it are moving up the list. So I can't tell you enough. Now is the time to lean in. It's not who you were as an agent, it's who you're becoming as an agent right now. Okay. Number two, am I going to do fewer deals in 2026? Volume shifts, rewards. Volume shifts, rewards skill, not luck. So just what I was saying is now is the time to like really double down. If you have a hard time understanding where you want to get better, meet with us. Like we'll tell you what we're seeing in the marketplace. We'll talk to you and we'll help you say, all right, let's start here. Start somewhere. And if you need someone to help you, we're with you. Rusty, I'm supposed to be done at 1, right? That was 1 minute ago. I'm just going to touch on the questions. Are buyers and sellers still motivated? We are talking about that. Yes, they are. They need to be taken through this process. Are my clients actually loyal to me? No, they're not. Unless you're already living your brand DNA at a high level. If you're doing that, like if I could call your clients and they could tell me your value proposition, they're yours. If I call your clients, I'm like, oh, they're so fun. They're so nice. They sold the house like 3 years ago for me, right? No, they are not loyal to you. Okay. Can you get them really loyal to you? Yes. It takes a very specific action right now, which is that brand DNA and how you're applying it. How do I explain this market without sounding defensive? Don't sound like you're defending your commission. Sound like you're consulting. I gave you some examples of that today. It's understanding the market, you practice. You don't show up and practice on your clients. What's my edge if I'm not discounting or chasing leads? I will tell you what your edge is if you choose it to be. It is you. You are what's going to set you apart from anybody else. But you've got to show up and show that value better than anybody else. If you're not willing to do it, then you will lose to the discounters and people buying leads. Aha's an action and a thank you. Rusty, back to you.
All right.
I go over every single time.
Okay, we have Joel Hawley here with Equity Home Warranty.
Right.
Good, how are you? One of my favorite guys here to chat with us.
Hi, guys.
Yeah.
Nice to be here. My name's Joel Hawley. I'm one of the owners of Equity Home Warranty. My partner is Yancey Scott. He's playing right now. He's on his way down to Mesquite for his birthday. So he's doing that, but he told me to tell everybody hi. Just really quick, you guys know all about us, all about Equity Home Warranty. We don't have any news for the new year, which is a good thing. That means we haven't raised our prices. Okay, we're still rolling with $500 as our top plan. Okay, if you just want our best plan, write in 500. I know that with a lot of the other companies, they're writing in anywhere from $700 to $800. If you write that in with us, your buyers get that as a credit. Okay, we hold the money, and then when they need to make a claim, when they want to rekey the house, when they want to tune up the furnace, that money is there for them to use. So they don't have to come out of pocket. Okay, our prices are also low enough that you can take our plans and create a 2-year plan for your clients. All right. I know the 800, some of the prices out there, $800-900, where our best plan's only 500. You can do 500 the first year, $300 plan on the second year. Okay. Or you can take our $400 plan and just double it for $800. Okay. So why not? Hey, let's get 2 years of coverage for our clients. Okay. That makes a lot of sense to me. Not the biggest out there, but we take really good care of people. We're really good at our customer service, and we just want to, create a lifelong working partner with all you guys. So, and it's been that way for a long time since we opened our company 12 years ago. Keller Williams has been one of our biggest supporters. So I just want to, more than anything, I'm here to say thank you very much. You guys supported us over the years. It's been amazing, and can't thank you enough. So. I'm going to hang around, answer any warranty questions you guys might have. But I brought Mo Betta's. I got some pork and chicken and rye. It's a really nice spread. Okay, so everyone go and help yourself and enjoy. And I'll be around answering questions you have. Thanks for having me.
Okay, we will send out the slides. If for some reason I don't have your email, I think I do most of yours, but if I don't, please see Bradley Richardson. Yep. Please see Bradley, give him your email so we can make sure we get you the slides if you want them. And have a great day, guys.
Thanks, guys.